You have seen this message. You are doing that too much. Try again in a minute. Behind that polite little refuser is a gate, quietly counting how fast you knock. It feels like a minor annoyance, but take that gate away and a single attacker can throw 398 million requests a second at you. In 2023, that exactly happened. Google absorbed a flood that peaked right there, around 398 million requests every second. More than 7 times the worst it had ever gotten or it had ever seen. It came from an attack called Rapid Reset. That same attack attacked Cloudflare and Amazon, where they were also hit in the same wave. No server farm on earth could handle that amount of requests in just a second. Now, the only thing standing between a service and that kind of flood is something we call a gate, which says enough is enough. So before the request ever reaches the real server, it says enough. And the threat isn't always an attacker. Sometimes a system can strangle itself. When a service starts to struggle, right, its own client panics and they retry. And those retries pile onto each other. Then they drown the server in a retry pile. We call it a retry storm. In 2015, one of these took Amazon's DynamoDB down for about 5 hours, with more than half of all the requests failing, dragging Netflix and Reddit dark with it. The mass is merciless, 5 services deep, each retrying 3 times, and the database at the bottom sees 243 times the original load. There is even a name for the end state, where a system is buried in retries it can no longer move at all. It's called cognitive collapse. Amazon used that exact phrase in October 2025 after a 14-hour outage that took down more than 140 of its own services. So every serious server or every serious service plants a gate at the very edge before they log in, before the business logic, and before their database. The gate asks one simple question over and over, millions of times a second. Is this request allowed right now? You see, there are 2 classic ways to answer it, and both of them are named after a bucket. Let's start with the first one. It's called the token bucket. I want you to picture something. Picture a bucket that holds 10 tokens. No more, just 10. That ceiling is the whole trick. A tap drips 2 fresh tokens in every second. But once the bucket is full at 10, the extra drip just spill over the rim and vanishes. Every request you make pulls 1 token out and spends it. If there's a token to spend, you are through instantly. If the bucket is empty, the gate throws an error called 429, too many requests, and tells you to come back once the tap has dripped a new one. Now, the clever part about this is what sitting still buys you. You say you can stay quiet for 5 seconds and you can let the bucket silently refill to 10. So now you can fire 10 rapid requests back to back, and that is called a burst. Before settling into the 32 a second the tap allows, there are exactly 2 knobs here and they move apart. How fast the tap drips into your bucket, which is your sustained rate, and how deep that bucket is, which is your burst. This is the gate that Stripe runs on its API, capped near 100 requests a second. It's the gate inside Amazon's API gateway, 10,000 a second, with 5,000 held in the bucket for a spike. The token bucket forgives a burst, it just won't let you sustain one. Now, the second one is called the leaky bucket. With the leaky bucket, right, there are actually 2 kinds of them. The first one is called a literal bucket with a hole in the bottom. You see, requests pour in from the top, and they drain out the hole at one fixed unchanging rate. Throw 100 requests at a single millisecond, and it won't flinch. They will queue up, and inside the bucket, they will leave one at a time, smooth into a perfect event stream. This is how the web server Nginx paces traffic. One request every 100 milliseconds. The rest waiting politely in line until the bucket overflows and the extra spill out. Rejected. The second leaky bucket is stranger. You see, that one never holds a request at all. The first bucket kept your request waiting inside or queued up. This one keeps nothing but a number. I want you to picture this. Picture a bouncer at the door with a clicker, right? Every request that arrived is sent straight to the server instantly, and the bouncer thumbs the counter up by 1. That counter ticks back down on its own, 2 a second, the gauge quietly forgetting. The cap is also 10. While the counter sits under 10, every request is waved through the moment it arrives. But the instant one more would push it past 10, that request is turned away, a 429 dropped on the spot, never packed in a line. Nobody waits here. Idle for a second and the counter leaps from 10 to 8 and the door opens for 2 more. So you see, you can line them up. The first leaky bucket is called the queue, and it does exactly what the name promises. No burst, just a steady trickle. Every request filed into one single even line. But the second one, the counter quietly breaks that promise. Let it sit idle until the counter drains to 0. Then throw 10 requests at it in the same instance. Every single one of them is under the cap, so everyone is waved straight through immediately. That's a burst in disguise. The very thing the leaky bucket is supposed to forbid, because under the mask, the counter was never really a leaky bucket. It's the token bucket in disguise, but being counted backwards. One takes down from 10 as you spend it, the other takes up to 10 as you fill it. Feed them the same cap and the same rate, and they make the identical call on every request. So forget the names. Here's the only choice that matters. When a clump of requests lands at once, you are going to either let them through or you spread them into a slow, even line. The token bucket lets the burst through. Perfect for a fragile system downstream that needs calm, even flow. One allows a burst, the other forces a trickle. That's the whole decision here, guys. Now, the 2 buckets aren't the only answers to rate limiting or throttling, right? We have something we call 2 windows. These are ones that will keep you sustained and also allow you to burst at 2 separate dials. You see, the simplest gate of all is a fixed window. A fixed budget over a fixed stretch of time. Reset all at once when the stretch is up. Your cloud code cap works exactly this way. The clock starts on your first message and runs 5 hours. Spend your whole allowance inside it and you are logged out, watching the timer count down, something like reset in 3 hours, 18 minutes, until it flips back to a full and a fresh window. Cheap to run, but with one blind spot. The boundary. Wait for the tail end of your window and you can bend the whole allowance. Then send one message the instant it resets to open a new window and bend it all again. So 2 full budgets back to back, and the gate never flinches because it files them as 2 separate windows and can see across the line in between them. To fix this, we have the rolling window, the kind Cloudflare reaches for. You see, you can forget the counter that resets on a schedule, but rather, this gate just watches the clock. Say, maybe it's 2 in the afternoon, right? It will count every request that you've made in the last 5 hours, from 9 that morning to right now, and check that against your limit. Under the line, you are inside. Over the line, you are going to wait. The clever part is that nothing ever resets. The window will just slide. So let's say an hour later, at 3 o'clock, it's coming from 10 that morning to 3. The 5-hour window crawls forward with the clock. So the request you made 5 hours ago will quietly fall off the back and free up that much room again. No single reset to wait for, as we have in Cloud Code or the Codex subscriptions. So with this one, there is no seam. because there's no line left to stand on either side of the reset window or in front of the reset window. And here's the loop that ties it all off, guys. Remember the retry storm, the client that hammered a service until it drowned. In 2016, Amazon taught its own software to stop doing exactly that by putting a token bucket on its retry, free to retry while they are tokens, and the moment that they run out, it stops retrying instead of piling on. The same bucket that throttles you at the gate is the bucket a system uses to keep from strangling itself. So please, the next time that your app tells you to slow down, you know the shape of the thing in your way: a bucket filling with tokens or a bucket leaking through a hole. One forgives your burst, the other refuses to let you have one. One more thing before you go, guys. If pulling a system apart like this is something that you think is fun, please give me a subscribe, because this whole channel is about doing system design and architecture, talking about technology, talking about coding, like everything in between. And I'm curious, if you're a system designer, which gate would you reach for your own API? The token bucket or the leaky bucket, or the fixed window or the sliding window? Tell me in the comments. Have a nice day and goodbye.